Shalom, Israel, Shalom, Shalom, Shabbat, Shalom. This your brother's Eli with the serve. This your brother Eli.
Brother Sapal.
Your brother Elijah.
Hey man, coming to y'all today with a Sabbath service. We want to first and foremost give all praises and honor to the Most High Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. You know what I'm saying? Shalom to our brothers and sisters scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, keeping the commandments and enduring, and you know what I'm saying, keeping the faith. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Today on the Sabbath, we're going into the topic called Rebirth of Rome and Reclassification of God's People. We're going to be going into how the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire, fell in 476 and how it ended up coming back into power. And with the Roman Catholic Church, who was the Pope that influenced the Renaissance or the rebirth of the Roman Empire, and how the downfall of the Israelites followed after that. So we're going to get into all those things through the Spirit. But first and foremost, we're going to open up with the book of Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse number 26. So we want to open up with Deuteronomy 4 and 26 to show how all these things that was going to be taking place and that was going to be prophesied. The Most High prophesied through the prophet Moses that all these things were going to come to pass. So let's open up with Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 26.
God, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, and verse number 26. It says, I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day,
Uh-huh.
that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto ye go over Jordan to possess it.
So the Lord told us, he called heaven and earth before us this day, that we was going to soon perish from off the earth with what? Go ahead.
Ye shall not prolong your days upon it,
Right.
but shall utterly be destroyed.
Keep going.
And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen.
And the Lord said he was going to scatter the Israelites throughout the four corners of the earth, and we was going to be left few in number among the heathen. Go ahead.
Whither the Lord shall lead you. And there ye shall serve gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone.
So it was prophesied that us as the Israelites, if we didn't keep God's commandments, we was going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, and in the lands where we would be brought as slaves, we would have to serve gods which we knew not of, involving wood and stone. Get the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse number 24. So we're going into the opening points just to show that everything that happened and that was going to happen, it was first prophesied through the prophet Moses.
Come on, this is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse number 24. It says, and the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day.
So the Lord commanded us to do his statutes so that it would be for our good as a people. And he said, by keeping his laws, statutes, and commandments, this will be the key point to preserving us alive as the Israelites. All right, so let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse number 15. We just gonna run through the key curses that the Lord said he was gonna put on our people. That today, when we go into this information, we will be able to identify without a shadow of a doubt that we are talking about God's people. Come on.
Come on, this is the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse number 15.
Mm-hmm.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Come on.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city, and cursed shalt thou be in the field.
So the Lord prophesied that if the Israelites didn't keep his commandments, he said that the Israelites were going to be cursed in the cities that they will reside in, and they will be cursed in fields. And when you look at what the Lord is saying here, he's letting you know that with the Israelites, if they did not keep his commandments, in any city that they go to, them cities was going to be overtaken, overthrown, destroyed, and given to other people. All right, let's jump to verse 36 now.
Go on. Verse 36. It says, the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
So who was the king set over the nation of Israel? The northern and the southern kingdom? It was King David. And when you look at King David's lineage is prophesied that they were going to be subject to slavery and get scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Right? The royal house of King David was prophesied that they were going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth with the children of Israel as well. And you read that again. Keep going, verse 37.
Come on. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword.
So the royal house of King David and the 12 tribes of Israel, the Bible prophesied that in the last days, if they didn't keep the commandments, that they were going to become proverbs and bywords amongst all nations, meaning what? The identity and the culture and the laws and the heritage that the Israelites in the royal house of King David kept was going to be stripped from them, and they were going to be reclassified in the last days. All right, so now jump to let me get the book of Leviticus chapter 26. The book of Leviticus chapter 26. So it's important to go through these curses and learn these curses as you study in the Bible, because everything that took place in the Bible or that God say will take place in the Bible, all these things were spoken first and prophesied to happen from our forefather Moses. So let's read this, the book of Leviticus chapter 26 and verse number 27.
Come on. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 26 and verse 27. And if ye will not for all this hearken unto me, but walk contrary unto me,
Right?
then I will walk contrary unto you also in fury.
Come on.
And I, even I, will chastise you 7 times for your sins. And ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters shall ye eat. And I will destroy your high places and cut down your images.
So the Lord said he was going to destroy the high places and cities of the Israelites, and he said he was going to destroy our images. When you look at Israel, we are people of imagery. We like signs, visions, and the Lord prophesied that he was going to cut down our high places, the places where we worshiped at, our images, whether it was idols or pictures of ourselves. The Lord said he was going to cut these things down and destroy these things amongst our people. Come on.
And cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you.
Come on.
And I will make your cities waste,
Come on.
and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. And I will not smell the savor of your sweet odors.
Come on.
And I will bring the land into desolation.
So any land that the Israelites was going to possess or own, the Lord said he was going to bring that land into destruction. Come on.
And your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it.
Read.
And I will scatter you among the heathen.
And he said he was going to scatter our ancestors amongst the heathens. We are the product of the people who were scattered amongst the heathens. Keep going.
And will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste.
Now, there's more on that. So now jump down to verse 37.
Come on, verse 37. It says, and they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword, when none pursueth, and ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies.
So it was going to come a time when the Lord flipped that switch, that the Lord said that the Israelites weren't going to have no power to stand before their enemies. Come on.
And ye shall perish among the heathen.
And he said we was going to die off as a people amongst the heathen. Come on.
And the land of your enemies shall eat you up.
Come on.
And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquity in your enemies' lands.
And he said the people of us that was going to be left, the remnant of our people that was going to be left in our enemies' land, he said we were going to pine away in our sin, following these other gods of the nations that enslaved us and colonized us. So now go to the book of Luke chapter 21 and verse 20, because let's hear it from the Lord's mouth himself. So what we're about to go into today, the rebirth of the Roman Empire and the religion of the Romans, and also the reclassification of the Israelites, you have to know that all these things were strategically prophesied to the Israelites, and they came to place in their complete order. So now let's read that. Luke 21 and 20. Let's listen good to what our King Yahweh had to say. Come on.
This is the book of Luke chapter 21 and verse number 20.
Come on.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
So he said, when we seen Jerusalem compassed about with armies during this time, what army was Yahushua referring to, or Christ referring to? He was referring to the Roman army, the Roman Empire. It was going to come a time when we seen Jerusalem compassed about with Roman armies. Come on.
Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
And he said, then let our people that was going to be dwelling in Judea at the time, which was going to be who? The tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. He said, let them flee into the mountains. So now we have to ask ourselves, when Christ was born, the angels told him and his mother and his father Joseph to go into Egypt or to go into the mountains. And now Christ is telling us to go into the mountains or go into Egypt. Why is that? Let's get the book of Second Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1, and see why did the Lord keep telling us, and why did the angels tell the Lord and his family to go into Egypt. Read that. Second Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 1. We're going to come right back here. But it's imperative and very important to know, why would the Lord tell us to leave our homeland and go into Egypt? Watch this.
God, this is the book of Second Maccabees chapter 1 and verse number 1.
Uh-huh.
It says, the brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem,
The
and
who?
in the it says the brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem,
The Jews that be in Jerusalem. Watch this. Go ahead.
and in the land of Judea,
Uh-huh.
wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace.
So when you go back into the book of Maccabees and you go into the time when the Greeks ruled the earth, right? We always had a remnant of our people that stayed throughout the Asia Minor, throughout Turkey, right? And our people, we had a remnant of our people who dwelt in Egypt, right? When Alexander the Great and his four generals, when it took hold of the earth, the king that was the Ptolemaic king that was over the Ptolemaic dynasty at that time had a thing to where he came and gathered a lot of the Israelites and had us move and dwell into Alexandria, Egypt. So this is why when Christ said what he said, when you go back, Luke 21 and 20, when we see Jerusalem compassed about with armies to go into the wilderness, because we already had a whole nation and colony of Israelites dwelling where? In Egypt. Come on.
Let me start back verse 20.
Verse 21.
Come on, verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains,
Uh-huh.
and let them which are in the midst of it depart out,
Come on.
and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto.
So, what countries were he talking about? The countries where all the Israelites were scattered and dwelling amongst. Like when you read the book of Acts, chapter 2, it told you there was devout Jews dwelling amongst all different countries and nations. So, when you think about it, a lot of the Israelites used to come back to the land 3 times a year to offer their sacrifices because all the males have to appear. But now, what was Christ telling our people? When you see Jerusalem compassed about with armies, leave and don't return. Why? Come on.
Verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled.
What was the things written that had to be fulfilled? The words of Moses. Come on.
But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people.
Come on.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
So the Lord said that there was going to come a time to where we was going to be paired, we were going to end up falling by the edge of the sword, and that the 12 tribes of Israel and Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were going to be led captives into all nations. Right? Go ahead. And when you look at this map right here, we got pulled up. When you look in the middle, when you go look at the middle right here, if y'all see where the mouse is at, this is where our land would be, right? We lived, our land was on northeast Africa, on the African continent. So when you think about when we left our homeland and fled into Egypt, we came right here. And then from that point on, after our land got destroyed and took down, we migrated throughout Egypt, North Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, and the majority of our people, you know what I'm saying, migrated to the west coast of Africa. So this is what Yahweh Shah was prophesying to our people that was going to happen through process of time. But keep going.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
So he said Jerusalem was going to be trodden down by the Gentiles to the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. All right. So now let's dig into it, right? So now let's go into the Gentiles, fulfillment of the Gentiles. So Jerusalem got overthrown in 70 AD by Titus Vespasian, right? A Roman general. And shortly after that, the Roman Empire fell in 476 AD. So now let's go to the book of Revelations, chapter 20. Let's go to the book of Revelations, chapter 20, and start at verse number 1. So we're gonna deal with the fall of the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire, and we're gonna deal with the rise of the Roman Western Empire, and we're gonna deal a little bit about the children of Israel and who was dwelling throughout certain areas during this time. So let's read that.
Come on, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 20, and verse number 1. It says, And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand.
So when you think about that word pit, what does that word pit have synonymous for? Hold this, get the book of Second Ezra chapter 5 and verse number 24. So when you hear this word pit, it's not talking about no hole in the ground or no hole on the expressway. This word pit is referring to land masses. So he said he saw an angel having come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit. So now let's read that real quick. Second Ezra 5 and 24. Let's
Come on,
see what this pit word means. Come on.
this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 5 and 24.
Uh-huh.
It says, And of all lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit.
Right. So now when you look at that word pit, the Bible says, and of all the lands of the whole world. So that word pit is another word for saying land. So now let's go back to Revelation 20.
Come on. Read again. It says, And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit.
So now this says it saw an angel having the key of the bottomless pit. What is this pit referring to? This bottomless pit is talking about the land of Europe. When you look throughout the world, the landmass Europe is one of the main countries that lack resources. That's why when you look at the European colonies today, majority of them go where to get majority of their resources. They go to the continent of Africa. But let's keep going.
Verse 2. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and
Uh-huh.
Satan,
Right.
and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into the bottomless pit.
So he said that this devil and this serpent, which represents who? Esau, got bound 1,000 years. So that 1,000 years goes into the reign or the dark ages, right? The dark ages when Esau got took down, the Western Roman Empire fell, in the eastern side of the Roman Empire ruled, which were what? Dark-skinned people, which were Israelites. Come on.
And shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more,
Mm-hmm.
till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled.
So he had 1,000 year sentence where Esau could not rule the world and deceive the world and oppress and colonize the world for 1,000 years. Let's get the book of Job, chapter 29, and we're going to go to verse number 1. So when we are looking into these things that we're about to go into right now, we are about to touch on how during this time after Israel fell, you know what I'm saying, you had the beast fall as well. The Western Roman Empire fell, And from this time, you had our people ruling. And when you think about the prophet Job, Job's life is a parable or a dark saying or something like a riddle in comparison to the life of the Israelites, and also mentioning of the life of Esau, the devil that the Bible speaks of. So now let's get there. Let's get the book of Job, chapter 29 and verse 1.
Come on, it's the book of Job, chapter 29, and verse number 1.
So when we read this book is finna go a little bit and explain how the life of the Edomites were, or the so-called Roman Empire was during the Dark Ages. Come on.
Come on, it says, moreover, Job continued his parable and said,
So right now, what Job is writing, and what if Job is saying and speaking on right now, he's speaking of something like a parable. He's speaking of a parable. Come on.
oh, that I were as in months past,
Uh-huh.
as in the days when God preserved me,
As I was in the days of dark past when God preserved me. Now, keep going.
when his candle shined upon my head, and when by his light I walked through darkness.
And when by his light I walked through darkness, symbolizing what? Rulership, power, dignity. Come on.
As I was in the days of my youth, when the secret of God was upon my tabernacle.
Now jump to verse 14. Jump to verse 14. If you got any pictures, Elijah, where you can show the dark ages, pull them things up. Watch this.
Come on, verse 14. It says, I put on righteousness, and it clothed me.
Matter of fact, jump to verse 6.
Come on, verse 6. When I washed my steps with butter, and the rock poured me out rivers of oil.
So what is this talking about, and what is this signifying? It's signifying rulership, riches. Because when you look at it today, we don't got these type of things. When we walk, don't these things pop out? Come on.
When I went out to the gate through the city, when I prepared my seat in the street,
Watch this.
the young men saw me and hid themselves.
Why? Out of humility. So during this time, when we walked in the streets, we was royal. It say the young men hid themselves, right? Come on.
And the age arose and stood up.
And the aged men amongst our people arose and stood up. Come on.
The princes refrained talking and laid their hand on their mouth.
Why? Because during this time, the people had a great respect, right? They had a great respect and authority for our people because we were the ones ruling the earth as kings at this time. Come on. Now jump to verse 14.
Verse 14, I put on righteousness,
Come
and
on.
it clothed me.
He said, I put on righteousness and it clothed me. Looking at these pictures, you see our people in righteousness. If you got some more, let me get them. Come on.
My judgment was as a robe and a diadem.
Come on.
I was eyes to the blind.
Huh?
I was eyes to the blind, and feet was I to the lame.
Why? Because he was during this time of the dark ages, we were the ones building up our people, strengthening our people. When you think about the Iberian Peninsula, it was our people who was dwelling in that land and getting all the resources and transferring in that time, right? When you look back at this time, we were the people who populated the whole Europe. When you think about the pictures that come from the Russian icon, those were our people who ruled this country, Europe and Russia, and all these things, and set up great dignities. And we had these people, these devils, as what? Our servants in that day. Go ahead.
I was the father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not I searched out.
Watch this.
And I break the jaws of the wicked.
And we broke the jaws of the wicked. The Western Empire was the wicked, whose jaws we broke. We destroyed their empire and had them dispersed throughout. That's how they got to the mountains. Watch, the Bible gonna prophesy that. Watch this.
And plucked the spoil out of his teeth.
Watch this.
Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand.
Watch this.
My root was spread out.
My root, meaning our power, was spread out throughout what? Throughout all Europe, throughout this bottomless pit. We was the ones ruling. When you think about in the west coast of Africa, we were the ones ruling. Our people was going back and forth, trading merchants, trading goods, creating different schools, creating different architectures. We were the doctors. And when you think about the Iberian Peninsula was the place where the house of David, the royal house of David, was dwelling in the land we know today as Spain. Come on,
My root was spread out by the waters,
right?
and the dew lay all night upon my branch.
Watch this.
My glory was fresh in me.
Why? Why was our glory fresh in us? Because during this time, this was the time when our people came back into power after Jerusalem got destroyed and overthrown by these same wicked people who we destroyed and punched in their jaws, right? Come on.
And my bow was renewed in my hand.
And our strength and our power was renewed in our hand. That's why when you go and look throughout the dark ages and you look at all the pictures, you know what I'm saying? You see the armor coat, you see the royalness of our people, you see that we was knights at this time. Why? Because all these things was happening during the dark ages. So now go to the book of Job, chapter 30 and verse 1.
God, this is the book of Job, chapter 30 and verse 1.
Now I started read that last verse 25 on Job 29 first. Come
God,
on.
verse 29, Job 29, verse 25. It says, I chose out their way and sat chief
He said, we sat as chief, read,
and dwelt as a king in the army.
and we dwelt as kings in the army. This is why when you think about the holy knights and you think about all these different things, it was our people, the ones that was ruling and dwelt as kings, right? Look at this. This was us, right? Dwelling with kings and crowns on our head. And we had these devils bowing down. Look at the little freak in the back with his nipples out, getting kicked out. Like this is how our people dwelt. Our young men and young women dwelling behind us, dressed in royalty. He said we sat as kings. Come on.
As one that comforted the mourners.
But now watch what happens. Watch the flip. Now watch the flip. Watch this.
This is Job 30 and 1. It says, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision.
And he said, now they that are younger than I have me in derision. Let's go. When you think about that, he said we only had 1,000-year span where we were able to allow these people to do what? Be bound where they couldn't deceive the world. So now, how old are you at right now? And let's go back to Revelations 20. And now I want you to read verse 7. Read that real quick.
Come on, this is Revelation 20 and verse number 7. It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison.
Satan was loosed out of the prison, loosed out of the stronghold that we had them bound in, right? Because why? It was time for judgment to come back on our people. Read.
And shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth.
All right, so stop right there. Now go to Revelations 13 and verse number 1. So now he said after the 1,000 years, these people was going to be loosed and power was going to be given back. So now after the fall of the Roman Empire for 1,000 years, from the 400s all the way up into the 1400s, watch this. Now we finna have a change of scenery. We have showed examples of how our people live royal during the dark ages. How when you read the book of Job 29, it gives you a description of how our people live. We dwelt as kings, right? Watch this.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse number 1.
Uh-huh.
It says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea.
And he stood upon the sand of the sea. That word sea in the Bible represents the actual waters, but it also represents heaven and rulership. Come on.
And saw a beast rise up out of the sea.
So it said he saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Man, if you can pull up the picture of that beast, but let's hold this right here. So Paul, I want you to get the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse number 18. Because let's show through the Bible that word beast is another word for speaking about mankind. So we're going to deal with it. We're going to prove to you today that when you read Revelations 13 and you read about these beasts in the Bible, the Lord always have likened men to beasts. All right. So now let's get that.
This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse number 18.
Come on.
It says, I said in my heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them.
Right.
And that they might see that they themselves are beasts.
That they might see that they themselves are beasts. So when you look throughout the Bible, and we go back to Revelations now, who is this beast being referenced that the Lord is talking about through the spirit of John the Revelator? It's talking about a man, right? Come on.
Come. Revelation 13, verse 1
One.
again.
Yep.
It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea,
So he saw a man or a race of people rise up out of the sea and rise up to power, right? Come on.
having 7 heads and 10 horns,
And this beast that, or this man that he saw rise up off the sea, right, that's likened to a beast, had 7 heads and 10 horns, right? Come on.
and upon his horns 10 crowns,
Right?
and upon his heads the name of blasphemy."
Right. So when you think about these 7 heads and these 10 horns, these represent 7 kings and 10 governments that was going to come from this nation. Let's get a precept on that. Let's get the book of Revelations chapter 17 and verse number 10 and verse number 9. Revelation 17 and verse number 9. So let's deal with these 7 heads and these 10 horns.
God, this is Revelation chapter 17 and verse number 9.
Come on.
It says, "And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come."
All right. So now it's telling you that these 7 heads represent 7 kings. So these 7 kings will signify Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Russia, and Great Britain. These all will classify as the 7 heads that you read about that'll come from this dragon or this beast. Who is this beast? Right, this beast is signifying Esau, the so-called white man, right? The devil that the Bible speaks of. So now go back to Revelations 13 and read that again.
God, Revelation 13, verse 1. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea,
So who is this beast that rose up out of the sea? It's talking about the race of Esau, right? Come on.
having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns."
Right. And this is talking about the rebirth of the Roman Empire. And we're going to prove it. Keep reading.
"And upon his heads the name of blasphemy."
Right. Because they this whole race of people, they whole founding were based on lies, oppression, and colonization. Come on.
"And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard,
Why? Why was it likened unto a leopard? Because it shared the same characteristics of who? The Grecians. What did the Grecians do? They came to defile the temple of God. They enslaved and colonized the Israelites and Hellenized us, right? To try to take us away from who we are as a people, right? Let's show you one of the attributes, and we're gonna go into the history and prove it later on. But go to the book of First Maccabees chapter 1 real quick and get verse 41. Let's show you why it said they were like unto the leopard, right? When you read about this leopard, right, this leopard is referencing to who? The ancient Grecians. Watch this.
Come on, this is the book of First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 41.
This is something that the so-called white man or the Romans, right, they took a hand out of the book of the leopard or the Grecians. Watch this.
"Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people,
And right, he wanted to make people of one race, right? Come on.
and every one should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king.
Mm-hmm.
Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to this consented to this religion,
Come on.
and sacrificed unto idols,
Come on.
and profaned the Sabbath.
Come on.
For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of
So
the land."
right. So under the Grecian Empire, the King Antiochus Epiphanes, the wicked, declared laws and strategies, right? That he wanted us to depart from our laws. And now he's about to go into making it illegal to profess yourself to be a Jew, to circumcise, to keep the Sabbath day, right? All our customs they were going to forbid us to do. These are the same thing that the Roman Catholics at this time of their rebirth was going to do to our people. So now let's go back. Let's go back to Revelations 13 and 2 again. You can keep that up there. So when you look at this, this is the beast that John the Revelator saw through the spirit. And who is the whore on the top of Babylon the Great? This the country that we dwell in today. This is the whore that sat upon the beast or descended out of the heads of the beast. Come on.
It's Revelation 13, verse 2.
Uh-huh.
It says, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard,
Right.
and his feet were as the feet of a bear,
Right.
and his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
Uh-huh.
And the dragon gave him his power
And the
and his feet."
dragon, that who is the dragon? Esau. So Esau and the spiritual demon Satan gave the Roman Empire their power and brought them back into domination. Watch this.
and his seat and great authority.
And what was the great authority that they had at this time under the Roman papacy? That the Roman Catholic Church got right into power, and then what? The Pope became the third under Peter, allegedly. And what did they start doing? They started pushing themselves throughout all the Western Empire where everything failed. Watch this. Keep reading. We about to get into it.
And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed.
Right?
And all the world wondered after the beast.
And all the world wondered after the beast. So who is this beast? The Roman Empire. And we're about to deal with it right now. We're about to go into it right now. Give me a second to share. Let me pull this up. All right. Let me see. This the one. Yep. So we're gonna start. Y'all can see this.
Go on, we can see it.
Dang, I just deleted it. All right. So let's start right here. Dang, so like, all right, here we go.
Which one you want to start at?
Right here where it says the Roman papacy.
Okay, come on. It says
So now we're about to go into how the wound got healed, how the Roman Empire that once fell in 476 AD came back into power. Come on.
It says the Roman papacy firmly came back to power in November of 1417 with the election of Pope Martin. Is that the fifth?
Yep, Pope Martin V.
His historic event concluded the Western Schism, a chaotic 39-year period during which multiple rival popes simultaneously claimed authority over the Catholic Church.
Come on.
The Council of Constance. The papacy's political authority had been fractured since 1309, first by the Avignon papacy, when popes lived in France, and then by the schism, which at one point left Europe with 3 simultaneous popes. To fix the crisis, global church leaders conveyed the Council of Countenance. The council cleared the field by deposing or accepting the resignations of all 3 existing papal claimants on November 11, 1417.
So all these popes that they had at first, they had to resign. And then it said the council elected Martin V, reunifying the fractured church under a single leader. So during this time of the rebirth, Martin V was the first official pope that ruled by himself as a single leader. And at this time, what we just read up on, at one point, the popes lived in France. But now the popes is getting ready to return where? To Rome. Watch this. We're going to read this and we got some more stuff for you. Watch this.
The return to Rome in 1420. It says, though elected in 1417, Pope Martin V could not safely enter Rome right away because the city was physically ruined.
Why? Because we destroyed it, and it was destroyed through wars and battles. Come on.
Economically devastated and politically unstable. He spent 3 years traveling across Europe to secure political alliances and funding.
Why did when you think about this, why did he have to go travel through across Europe to secure political alliances and funding? Because during this time, when we ruled during the Dark Ages, the Western Roman Empire fell and the people were scattered throughout Europe. Most of them was in the Caucasus Mountains in Georgia, Russia. Most of them was scattered throughout our places as low life scums. And now, when they're coming back into power, and they're coming back from France and all these other places, and a lot of them dwelt amongst us in the Iberian Peninsula. Now he's having to go to these places and have secret councils and get funded to rebuild what once was destroyed and lost from them. Right? Come on,
Oh,
it's right here,
come on, where you went?
huh? It's right here. He
Okay,
finally
come on.
made.
Come on. It says he finally made his grand entry into Rome in September 1420, establishing it once again as the permanent, undisputed center of Western Christian power.
Right, and this was during the time and the rise of the Renaissance, and it's gonna show it. Come on,
Consolidation of absolute power. Upon returning, the popes immediately worked to consolidate their authority over two main fronts:
come on,
defeating
consularism.
consularism. The Council of Continents had passed decrees stating that church councils held more power than the Pope. Martin V and his successors spent the mid 1400s systematically undermining these councils,
Watch this.
successfully restoring the Pope as an absolute spiritual monarch.
Watch this. Come on.
The Renaissance rebuild. It says the papacy used its restored tax revenues to transform Rome from a diplomatic medieval town into a glittering global capital of art,
Right. Watch this.
architecture, and political diplomacy, funding major projects that asserted their supreme wealth and influence.
So now, during this time under Pope Martin V, what we have going on here is what? Rome is being rebuilt. And when you look at it, it said that Rome got rebuilt with global capital of art, architecture, political diplomacy, right? Because they set up for their independence. And why did they have to have the capital of art? Because all the dark images and all the imagery that our people had set up during this time, during the dark age, and when we were ruling, they had to go back and whitewash everything and rebirth the Roman Empire and change the dynamic of the whole world. And under this conquest, Pope Martin V also issued papal bulls to Portugal. And you know what I'm saying? During this time, later on, will be involved with Spain. But first, let's go into a book. I want to show something here. Let's go into a book. I want to show something here. All right. So we're going to go into these two books right here. We're going to go into this book first. And this book is called The Jews of Spain and Portugal and the Inquisition. So give me a second to pull this up. Elijah, if you got something, y'all can speak.
Oh, good, King.
Yeah, what I was going to say, you're going deep in this, man, when it's coming to our history. And a lot of our people don't know too much about the Dark Ages. A lot of the information that's given out in these colleges and a lot of this history that's put down in these high schools, they always start doing the Greeks and the Renaissance period. They don't never talk about the Dark Ages when the Moors, which were Israelites, ruled
Right.
at that time. So I want to get that
Right.
out.
So, Sapar, you can see this.
Come on, I can see it. I'm going to maximize it for you. I got you.
All right. So, all right, read this. So, when you think about it, this was all during the time of Rome being rebirthed under Martin V. And where it started with the expulsion of the Israelites from the Iberian Peninsula and them being led into west coast of Africa. But watch this, read that.
Huh. It says the Jews of Spain and Portugal and the Inquisition.
Right. So first, before we get here, we're gonna show you something later on, but keep reading.
Come on, it says the period when Jewish settlers were first attracted to the Iberian Peninsula, where they afterwards attained so high a position in learning and in wealth, and where for some centuries they so thoroughly
Acclimatized.
acclimatized themselves as almost to forget their captivity and to regard themselves as in a new Judea.
Right? Come on.
Is so remote that no reliable historical data exists on the subject.
Now jump down to where the next highlighted portion is.
It says, when, however, at the end of the 6th century, the Roman Catholic form of Christianity became the recognized religion of Gothic Spain.
So during this time of the 6th century, around the time when Rome was getting to fall, the Roman Catholic faith was the new popular form of Christianity that ruled during the time of Gothic Spain, even when our people who knew they was Jews was dwelling amongst there, right? So you had Muslims, you had Jews, and then you had the Christians who were really the Catholic Church. Come on.
It says, fresh edicts of intolerance followed fast from the various councils held principally in Toledo. And
Hold on.
the page flip.
Yep, there we go. Come on.
And soon after, we begin to hear of those forced and consequently feigned conversions, which in latter times led to such sad and disgraceful results.
Come on.
The persecutions became so frequent and so violent that large numbers of Jews from southern Spain sought refuge on the African coast.
Now, when you go back to this, why is it that our people from the Iberian Peninsula or Spain and Portugal will have to flee that land, which is southern Spain, and go into the African coast? Because through that time, they already knew that they had their tribes and the other brothers and sisters and their kinsmen dwelling throughout the west coast of Africa, dwelling throughout Central Africa, dwelling throughout South Africa. During this time, we already knew that we had other Israelites dwelling in other parts of the world and not just in one part. Now, watch this. We got another hold on. It's something else I want to go to on this. I'm gonna show you something else. It goes further and further because when you think about this, a lot of people just think that during this time, a lot of our people go to the book of First Kings, chapter 10 and verse 22. Because a lot of people always want to try to say that, oh, these Jews that it's talking about here is talking about Amalek. No, it's not. What the problem is, our people don't know what the modern day term or the biblical term back then, the name for the land Spain, Iberian Peninsula. What was it called during the Bible days? Let's get that. Let's get 1 Kings 10 and 22. I want to show you something. I want to learn you something.
This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 10 and verse number 22.
Uh-huh.
It says, for the king had a seat at navy of Tarshish.
Right.
With the navy of Hiram.
Uh-huh.
Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks.
All right, so hold on, stop right there. So let's show real quick that word Tarshish. Let's look into this word Tarshish. Where does that word Tarshish come from? All right, let's look into this word Tarshish. Modern day Tarshish. Watch this. Hold on, give me a second. Modern day Tarshish.
I got a king. Isn't this Cecilia?
No, it's right here. I got to pull it up. So it
Okay.
says, when you read here, it says the exact modern location of the biblical city of Tarsus remains a subject of historical debate, but most widely accepted scholarly theories places it in modern day Spain. Specifically, historians most frequently link it to the ancient mineral-rich civilization of Tartessus, located in southern Aladesia. So when you look at this, this is southern Spain. Now watch this. This is southern Spain. So now watch this. Watch this.
No,
I ain't talking about you. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I thought you were reading.
It's Spain, Iberian Peninsula. Watch this. Yes, southern Spain is part of the Iberian Peninsula. So now, when you think about that word Tarsus in the Bible, it's referring to the Iberian Peninsula of what we know today as modern day Spain. So now, go back and read what you read again. 1 Kings 10 and 22. Let's read 1 Kings 10 and 22.
It says, for the king had at sea a navy of Tharshish with the
Right?
navy of Harim.
Uh-huh.
Once in 3 years came the navy of Tharshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks.
Right. So during the time of King Solomon, he had navy ships going to the land of Tarshish, bringing him back resources. Let's get the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27 and verse 12. Let's get the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27 and verse number 12. So watch this. What we're going to show you is it wasn't a coincidence on why it said the royal house of David dwelt in the Iberian of Peninsula or in Spain. And these were the Jews, or amongst the Jews, they got kicked out of Spain and kicked out of Portugal. They had to flee into the west coast of Africa. We showing you here that even during the time of King Solomon, who comes from the royal house of David, our people having interactions and going to and fro in and out of the Iberian Peninsula. So read that.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 27 and verse number 12. It says, Tarshish was thy merchant by reason of the multitude of all kind of riches,
Right?
with silver, iron, tin, and lead.
Come
They
on.
traded in thy fairs.
They traded in thy fairs. So now let's show you somebody else who went into the city of Tarshish. Go give me the book of Jonah, chapter 1 and verse number 3. So what we showing you here is our people, the Israelites, always was going in and out of the Iberian Peninsula, or what the world knows today as Spain. We always sailed in and out of Spain for resources and crops, and our people set up citizenship and housing there. But watch this, we're gonna show it though.
This is the book of Jonah, chapter 1 and verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
It says, but Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish.
Right?
From the,
He flew up. Hold on, read that again. He flew up to flee where?
but Jonah rose up to flee unto Tarshish.
So the prophet Jonas fled when the Most High wanted him to go to Nineveh into Assyria. He decided to flee and go into Tarshish, which is what? The Iberian Peninsula, to avoid to go do what the Lord told him to do, right? Come on.
From the presence of the Lord.
Uh-huh.
And went down to Joppa.
Right.
And he found a ship going to Tarshish.
And he found a ship going into the Iberian Peninsula. Come on.
So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it.
All right. So now we're going to go back. We're going to come back. All right. So now give me 1 second. Let me come here. So now I want to show the screen again. So now I wanted to just let it be known that it was our people who did what? Interacted in and out of Tarsus. And even from the time of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar set up the royal house of David as well in that land for him to be able to benefit. That's why when we read in that book a few minutes ago that what? You know what I'm saying? When they got to that land, they enjoyed it so much that they kind of forgot that they was in slavery, because why? They already was acclimated and used to that land. So now we're going into another book. This book is called The Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. So now we on page 37, and now we're gonna read another point. We're not gonna read 1,000 books because we got videos as well. But I just want to show you the historical proof of what happened to our people during the rebirth of the Roman Empire. So read there where it says it is largely owing.
It says it is largely owing to a set of historical accidents that we have today only one highly ambiguous text of Akasha and Arabic characters, and that the more than 20 others.
Hold on 1 second. I'm making it big for you. Hold on, give me 1 second. Salakia. All right, there you go.
Con,
All
con,
right. Yep. Read it again. Salaki.
con. It says it is largely owing to a set of historical accidents that we have today only one highly ambiguous text of Akarja in Arabic characters, and that the more than 20 others that survived were composed in Hebrew letters by Jews.
And Hebrew letters by Jews. And how was that? Because these same Jews were descendants of the royal house of King David. But now, for the sake of time, jump down to where it says the Jewish presence in Spain.
Con. The Jewish presence in Spain has been traced authoritatively as far back as the 4th century, but it is probably more ancient than that. Spanish Jews often reach back a good deal farther to find their origins,
Come on.
not only to show the depth of their roots in the land, but also when occasion seemed to demand it to absolve their line of any possible implication in the death of Jesus in faraway Palestine.
Come on. Keep going.
Some
Some of them.
okay, some of them identified the mysterious Tarshish of the Old Testament with the Hispano-Roman town of Tartus.
So what we just showed you with proof, these people also knew, the scholars knew, and the man who wrote this book knew that what? That land Tarshish that King Solomon used to sail to with his ships was this same land. So this is why these Jews here was able to trace back their roots and know that, hey, our ancestors has always had a connection with this land. But keep going.
Implying that King Solomon's ships could have established a colony of Israelite merchants there.
Come on.
This would have made the Jewish presence in Spain as ancient as that other Semitic one,
Right?
the,
The
the,
Phoenicians.
the Phoenician. A more modest tradition reached back to King Nebuchadnezzar and maintained that he brought some of his Jewish captives to Spain to help establish Babylonian settlements there.
All right, so now we gotta go through some more though. We got a little bit more. I want to show you some more. So now let's show you how our people lived during this time. All right, so now hold on, give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull up this other one. I want page 43. Give me a second. I want page 43. I want to show you some more. All right, now read that. So now what we are going into the rebirth of the Roman Empire and the expulsion or the process of the Jews being expelled out of Europe, out of Spain, and out of Portugal. Come on.
Come the first manifestations of a new birth of intolerance in Spain, however, were directed not so much against the Moors as against the Jews,
Mm-hmm.
nor was it racial component immediately evident. Rather, the anti-Judaism, which accumulated force in Spain through the course of the 14th century and burst out violently at the beginning of its final decade, was,
Come on.
on the surface of it, part of a general European wave that professed no other motive than the ideal of religious purity.
The religious purity of what? The Israelites ruling and painting their imagery, painting their customs and their laws throughout Spain and Portugal. And now, what did these Europeans want to do? They wanted to rebuild the Roman Catholic Church in the Western Europe and the Western Roman Empire back to their forefathers, and they was ready to overthrow and enslave and kick us out of this land. Come on.
With the notable exception of the Catholic Visigoths of Spain,
Come on.
Western Europe had not shown much inclination to anti-Judaism during the first millennium of Christianity.
Now, watch this. Watch this. Let's go to the next one. I want to go to the other one. We almost out of here, right? Well, we got to get into the scriptures again and some videos. But let's go to page 46. I want to show you one more thing. Give me a second. Page 46. All right. I want you to start where it says the 14th century.
Come on. It says the 14th century was in general a period of mass uprising,
All right.
and the Iberian Peninsula was not exempt from the social conditions that had brought them on. But to the extent that the rioting had sometimes contained an anti-Jewish component, the situation in Spain, where there were more Jews than in any other Christian country,
Watch this.
and where their presence carried special implications from a unique and ambiguous past,
Mhm.
Salakia, was potentially more explosive than any other.
Watch this.
At the end of the century,
Why?
this
At the end of the century, when Pope Martin V had became the solely only what? Pope of Rome, he is the one that started to rebuild and rebirth the Holy Roman Empire, right? The Western Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church. And the way that they wanted to do it was they wanted to convert everybody under the Roman faith and dispel the customs of the Israelites and kick out everybody who didn't want to imply. Come on.
the Spanish Christian masses suddenly railed to the banner of the general European anti-Semitism of the epoch.
Watch this.
But
Jump to the
beneath
next highlighted part. The
Khan,
sudden fury.
the sudden fury of intolerance was part of a general Western European development,
Uh-huh.
but the undying venomous of it and its increasingly racial coloration through the course of the succeeding century were something particularly Spanish.
All right.
The
Watch
Jews
this.
were
Now jump down to this last pink part where it says the rioters at the bottom.
Khan. It says the rioters set fire to the gates of the Jewish quarter,
Mm-hmm.
killed many of its inhabitants,
And they killed many of its inhabitants. Come on.
forced many more to the baptismal font, and sold some of the women and children into slavery in North Africa.
Into North Africa, right? So they started selling the Israelites as slaves during this time. So now we're gonna jump down and get two more points out of this book, and then we moving on. We getting back to the Bible. Give me page 93. I mean 94. Page 94. Watch this. So now we're getting back into the rebirth of the Roman Empire, and now we're about to speak on the invasion of Africa by the Portuguese. So before we do this, though, right? Hold on. Before we do this, and before we go into the invasion of the Portuguese, let's show you. Let's show you the motive behind it. So let's show you the motive behind it. Pope Martin. Hold on, we're gonna deal with this, right? So let's show you the motive behind Pope Martin. So his goal wasn't just to become the main Pope of Rome and repaint their imagery and rebuild their cities, right? But watch this. Watch what his Pope bull was for Portuguese. All right, so now watch this. Read that.
It said in 1418, Pope Martin V issued a papal bull that authorized a crusade against North Africa, granting the Portuguese Empire religious absolution to pursue territorial expansion. While Martin V did not explicitly codify the systematic transatlantic slave trade, his decree set the early geopolitical,
Geopolitics. Yeah.
geopolitical and moral
President.
precedent for Portuguese maritime conquest.
All right. So now when you look at this, not only did Pope Martin be a big part of rebirthing the Roman Empire, but under Pope Martin, he was the one that wrote the papal bulls to allow the Portuguese to go and start setting conquest in Africa and bringing back slaves, right? So when you read these bulls, you read down, he had the doctrine of discovery issued by Pope Martin V, right? He sanctioned that what the Portuguese can have trade in Africa with slaves, the dumb diversas, right? These are all the certain things that he went into, but now I think I got a clip. All right, so now let me go up out of here because I want to show y'all this clip now. Give me 1 second. Yep, this is fair use, by the way. This is fair use. So now let's dig into this. This is fair use for educational purposes only.
Cape Verde. 1460, just off the coast of West Africa. The land is empty and uninhabited. Climate is too erratic for crops. And the only other food sources are screeching bats or the bitter meat of helpless turtles. So what would make the Portuguese interested in this uninhabited archipelago? The land was most likely already known to Africans and even the seafaring Phoenicians, but Europe would first encounter the island in the mid-1400s. The island groups of Madeira and the Azores were already colonized earlier in the century, under Prince Henry the Navigator. With the addition of Cape Verde, in the 1460s, Portugal would have access to West African gold, bypassing Islamic North Africa.
So now, when we go back to the question at hand, who were the people dwelling in West Africa? It was the Israelites. Who were the people that got expelled out of Spain and out of Portugal? It was the Israelites. They had to flee and go back into Africa, all right? But let's keep going.
The Portuguese king carved up the islands and allocated each to a capitão, or captain, to settle and develop a system that would be later used in the Brazilian colonies. The first captain allocated land was Antonio de Noli, a Genoese explorer sailing under Portugal's banner, who first took interest in the islands. The location was ideal for Portuguese explorers as well, and used.
And when you look at what these men of Portugal, right, under the Roman Catholic power, under the power of Pope Martin V, look at what they came wearing on their necks. The same thing that our people wear today. These crosses, different forms of gold crosses on their necks, right? Symbolizing what? That they came over here in the faith and by the permission and blessings of the Roman Catholic Pope. Let's keep going.
Stops on Vasco da Gama's route to India and Ferdinand Magellan's circumnavigation of the globe. Cape Verde was initially settled with Portuguese, many from the nearby Azores Islands. In 1496, amidst the Spanish and Portuguese Inquisition, Jews on the mainland were expelled, and many headed to Portuguese islands off the coast of Africa, like Cape Verde. They would emerge as foremost traders and adventurers, known as lançados. As for the island production itself, sugarcane was to be the staple, but as mentioned earlier, the island soil and climate weren't very friendly to crops. To get around this, the Portuguese deforested much of the region in order to gain access to better soil. They would then bring in cattle and horses. Eventually, cotton textiles would be a primary trade commodity, exported to the African coast. They would also extract red dye from lichens, called ochre. In return, Portugal would import the gold they were after, but also pepper, ivory, and slaves. They would be the first European power to buy African slaves and transport them across the ocean, kickstarting the Atlantic slave trade in the early 1500s.
So now, we're going to hold this and we're going to get ready to come back to this. But what are we showing you right here? Through prophecy, this is the rebirth of the Roman Empire. And what we showing that through the rebirth, go back to Revelations 13:3 again. We're going to get ready to come back here. Go back to Revelations 3 again. 13, Revelations 13:3.
Con, this is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 3.
Uh-huh.
It says, and I saw one of his heads, as it were wounded to death.
Right. And it's talking about the Roman Empire. Go ahead.
And his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast.
And when did all the world wonder after the beast? During the time when Pope Martin V officially became the single-headed Pope over Rome and moved the Pope and the papacy from France to Rome. And under these papal bulls, guess what started happening? They start expelling the Jews out of where? Spain and Portugal, sending them off into Africa. Then Pope Martin also started declaring and writing papal bulls, going and sending the Portuguese to do what? Set up and start colonizing Africa and enslaving who? The Israelites that was on the west coast of Africa. And you might ask yourself, How would they know to go there and start colonizing and taking over the land? Because these people during the Dark Ages witnessed Jews from Africa coming into the Iberian Peninsula. Jews from the Iberian Peninsula going where? Into Africa, dwelling and handling much business and riches and resources amongst their people, right? And also letting the other nations of the Africans witness these things. So when you look at this video, when the Portuguese with them Papa Bulls came over here and did what they did and gathered these slaves, they knew exactly who they was coming to get, and they also knew exactly who they were coming to go into business with. But keep going, keep reading on this.
Con says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast.
So when you say, hold on, read that again, and they what?
It says, and they worshiped the dragon.
Who is the they? Spain, Portugal, France, Greece, all these European nations were going to be worshiping this Roman Catholic Church under the rebuild and the rebirth of the Romans. Come on.
And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Come on.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies.
And what was the things they were speaking great blasphemy against? The Israelites. They were making it unlawful for Israelites to possess and say that they are Israelites. They made it illegal to keep the Sabbath day, to keep feast days. And they said that what? The third highest command prophet of God on the earth is now the Pope. And under that had all the Israelites start something called the conversos, where what? The Israelites, the Jews, will begin to convert to Catholicism. Come on.
And power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
Mm-hmm.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God.
Why? Because he said that the Roman Catholic Church was God's chosen people now, and that God was dwelling and dealing with who? The Roman Catholic Church. Keep going.
To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven.
Come on. And how long? And it said, and them that dwell in heaven. Come on, read that part again. I want to show y'all something. Go back to the whitewashing and the Renaissance art. When you think about it, he said they blasphemed the God on earth, his people, and those things that are in heaven, the angels in heaven. Why? Because they went and painted everybody white. God was white. Jesus was white. Michael the archangel is white. Mary, the mother of Christ, is white. The holy knights, right? When you look at that word night comes from what? Blackness, darkness. Now the knights is white. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's white. This was the part of the rebirth and the deception of coming back, right? Everybody is white, right? Keep going. Read verse 7 now.
Come on, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints.
So now, when you think about the Spanish and the Portugal Inquisition, the enslavement of these quote unquote Africans from the west coast of Africa, the Bible said it was prophesied by the mouth of John the Revelator that it was given unto him to make war with the saints. Who are the saints? Think about that time during the Dark Ages. We were the ones calling ourselves saints. Saint Paul, Saint Nicholas. All these things came from the Israelites. So during this time, it was given permission by God to do what? Allow the Roman Catholic Church and the powers of Rome, the seven heads and the so-called 10 horns that was going to follow, power to make war against the saints. This why when you look at this picture we have here on screen, you see these devils having our people bound up in chains. And when you look at it, it's two of them to our 10 or 12. Think about that. Thinking about in modern day term, if Esau came upon us with one stick and a couple of knives and tried to enslave us, what 10 or 12 of us could do to just them two, right? So this lets you know that this was a divine intervention by the Most High God. But let's get back to the video. We got more.
The Portuguese were too weak to militarily dominate any of the African areas, but there was no need to, as the African trading routes were already supremely efficient, with both the Portuguese and West Africans working together.
So now, when we look at this, it'll say, hold on, West Africans working together. These Africans that they was working together with wasn't Israelites. These were the Hamitic tribes that lived amongst the Israelites. It's gonna prove that. Watch this.
The arrangements, however, weren't beneficial for the slaves. They would be brought to Cape Verde easily, because of the proximity to the African coast, but have no recourse once they were there, and couldn't escape the island. Many remained as slaves on Cape Verde, producing sugar and cotton, but the majority would be taken to the Americas, mainly Brazil. Over time,
So during this time, the Portuguese was one of the first ones to enslave our people and enslave us on Cape Verde, send us back into their areas in Portugal, back as slaves, but also send us into the Americas. All right, so now keep reading in Revelation 13 and 7 again.
Verse 7, it says, "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations."
So why was they successfully able to come from Portugal to Africa to set up slave routes and get in on the slave routes? Because the Bible prophesied that the Lord was going to give them power to make war with the saints, which are the Israelites. And when you think about why the other African nations that were dwelling amongst us throughout Africa, in certain regions of west coast of Africa, why would they be so quick to give up our drop and give us to these people? Why? Because it was prophesied by God to happen. That's why it happened. But let's finish reading on this.
let
You said reading or
No, I meant to say let's keep
Europeans would
watching.
settle on Cape Verde because of its relative distance from Portugal, and this led to race mixing on the islands, but the increasing importation of slaves would see them make up the vast majority of the population on Cape Verde's two foremost islands. In 1582 there were just 1,600 white and mixed-race settlers, but there were almost 14,000 slaves. In the late 1500s, King Philip II of Spain took over Portugal, and Cape Verde would then come under threat from Spain's rivals, like England. Francis Drake, the English privateer, would raid.
All right, so that's it on that. So now, give me a second, bear with me. So now we're gonna go into the colonization and the enslavement of our people. We're gonna start first. We just went through Pope Martin V. So Pope Martin V was the Pope who popped it off and did what? Gave the green light for who? The so-called Romans in the Roman Catholic Church to come back into power. But now we have another Pope who comes after him during this same time. This Pope is Pope Nicholas the Fifth. Pope Nicholas the Fifth. So now let's see what Pope Nicholas the Fifth did with the slave trade. Cause we just saw some of the video, right? Come on. Read that.
It says, with Portugal's expansion into Western Africa in the 15th century, Iberian merchants began to recognize the economic potential of a large-scale slave trafficking enterprise. One of the first to record its sentiment, according to the Portuguese royal chronicler Gomes Edmonds de Zora, was a young ship captain named Atom Goscales, who sailed to West Africa in 1441, hoping to acquire seal skins and oil.
So he first allegedly say he came for seal skins and oil, but we know that's not true. So now, watch this. Let's jump down and read where it says while Gonzalez.
While Gonzalez' voyage in 1441 is widely considered to mark the beginnings of the transatlantic slave trade, it may also be viewed as an extension of an older tradition of raiding and ransom on both shores of the Mediterranean.
Come on.
Upon returning to Portugal, Gonzalez treated his captives.
Yeah, you can say Goncalves. All right,
Goncalves, it's like you treated his captives in accordance with this custom and allowed them to negotiate the terms of their release.
All right, so now watch this. This is going to prove to y'all that the slaves that he first captured was the actual Hamitic people. But then he said, hold on, what y'all want us for when the Jews is over there? Watch this. Keep going.
It says, rather than offering a ransom of money, the captives promised to give Concalves 10 slaves in exchange for their own freedom and safe passage home.
Watch this.
According to Royal Chronicler Zora, the Berbers explained these new captives would be black land, not of the
No,
lineage.
no, 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 no. Read that again. They didn't say no black land. Read that again. Watch this.
It says the Berbers explained that these new captives would be black
And
and Slakia, and not of the lineage of Moors.
not of the lineage of the who?
Not of the lineage of Moors,
Or what?
but Gentiles.
So who was these black people that wasn't of the lineage of the Moors? Because we understand through Bible prophecy and historical records that the Moors and the Jews were Israelites. The Jews in Spain were of the royal house of David. The Moors were Jews that dwelt throughout Europe. But it said that these blacks that he set free to go help him get other slaves were black, but not of the lineage of the Moors, but Gentiles. Because why? They were from Hamitic tribes. Watch this.
Thus, in 1442, Concalves returned his Berber captives to Western Sahara, receiving as payment 10 enslaved sub-Saharan Africans.
Sub-Saharan Africans, talking about who? The Israelites. Watch this.
Whom he then transported back to Portugal for resale.
Now, watch this. 15th century.
15th century, Iberian legal traditions regulated Christians' treatment of Jews.
Who?
Muslims,
Hold on.
Jews,
Christian treatment of Jews. The royal house of David. The Muslims, which were the so-called Moors of Israelite descent. Watch this.
and other Christians.
And other Christians, because some of our people were converting to Catholicism to survive. Watch this.
Clearly deneating. For example, who was enslavable and who was not. In contrast, the judicial status of people who did not fit these categories was more ambiguous. Legal
And
and
philosophical.
and philosophical arguments
Oh my,
to
philosophical.
and philosophical argument
Yeah.
address this issue began to evolve during the second half of the 15th century.
Come on.
Once Portuguese mariners began to return to Iberia with captives acquired in West Africa and
In
West,
West Africa and West Central Africa, watch this.
notably, the treatment of black Gentiles was addressed in 1452 and 1455.
Watch this.
When Pope Nicholas V issued a series of papal bulls that granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans, church leaders argued that slavery served as a natural deterrent and Christianizing influence to barbarous behavior among pagans.
Watch this.
Using this logic, the Pope issued a mandate to the Portuguese king, Alfonso V, and instructed him
To do what?
to invade,
To invade the west coast of Africa. Watch this.
search out,
Search out amongst the west coast of Africa.
capture,
Capture in the west coast of Africa the Israelites, right, who wasn't a part of them black Gentiles. Watch this.
vanquish,
Vanquish them from them lands, them cities, them businesses, them crops, them resources that they accumulated on the west coast of Africa. Watch this.
and subdue
Uh-huh.
all Assyrians and pagans whatsoever, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery.
So who was he talking about? Papal Pope Nicholas V, the devil, issued this papal bull to strategically find, locate, enslave, destroy, and colonize all the Israelites and everything that these Israelites possess. So now, does the Bible prophesy and say that these exact things was going to happen? Because when you think about the west coast of Africa, the Bible, it said that the black Gentiles got set free, and instead those black Africans or those black Gentiles said, hey, we'll give you the other Negroes that's on the other side if you let us go. For every one of us that you set free, we'll bring you 10 of them niggas. And this is what they did. So let's see, is that's Bible. Get the book of Joel, chapter 3, and let's go to verse number 1. So let's see with what these devils did to us biblical. Is it proof in the Bible that somebody is going to let us know that these black Gentile dusty Hamites will be the ones that will sell us to these devils that came up during the rebirth of the so-called Roman Empire? Let's read that. Joel chapter 3 and verse number 1.
God, this is the book of Joel, chapter 3, and verse number 1. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem,
Watch this.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people
So
and
the
for my."
Lord, so the Lord said he was going to bring all the nations responsible and who participated in the enslavement, the destruction, and the colonization of the Israelites to the valley of Jehoshaphat. Come on.
And will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel,
Watch this.
whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
So now he going to tell you the people who did it. Keep going.
And they have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink.
Come on.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon,
Watch this.
and all the coast of Palestine?
So when you look at this, Tyre and Zidon are African nations. All the coast of Palestine, right? These are Arab nations. So when you think about the involvement of the slave trade during this time when Goncalves was going throughout Africa, right, with Prince Henry the Navigator, the devil, these people was in business with who? The Africans, the Hamitic tribes of the Africans, and the Arabs to do what? Make deals to keep the slaves of the Israelites going throughout the world. So now watch this. It get better. Watch this.
It says, will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Come on.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things.
Watch this.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
So they sold us unto the Grecians. Who were the Grecians in this form? At this time, when Joel was writing this, the Roman Empire didn't exist, right? But the people of the Grecians at this time was already in the making of coming about, because who were the people of the Grecians at that time? It was the Amalekites, the people of Macedonia, right? And if you know the history and the research, hey, look into that. We didn't talked about it in the past, but we're not going to get into that today. So it shows you that these Hamitic people was prophesied to sell the Israelites to the Grecians or the Edomite race. And this Papa Bull came by who? Pope Nicholas V. So now let's go up. We're going to deal with the next Pope. Who was the next Pope that got the green light to make war against the saints? Because now we're seeing that who? Under the Portuguese rule from Pope Nicholas V, the Israelites started being transported where? To the island of Brazil first and throughout the Americas. But now let's bring it home with this one. Now we're going to deal with Pope Alexander VI, right? And all of this is going into the Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Empire being built up, but now using the 7 heads of this beast. So now let's read this, King.
Come. It says, AD 1493, the Pope asserts rights to colonize, convert, and enslave.
Mm-hmm.
It says Pope Alexander IV issued a papal, the sixth, Salakia, issued a papal bull or decree inter caetera, in which he authorized Spain and Portugal to colonize.
Stop. Think about where this started now, brothers and sisters. It started in Spain. Sapar got me messing up now. It started in Spain and Portugal. Spain and Portugal is southern Spain, which will be referenced as the Iberian Peninsula. who dwelt in the Iberian Peninsula, it will be the royal house of King David. Jews dwelled throughout this land. Israelites dwelt throughout this land. And in the rise of the devil coming back into power, they expelled us and converted a lot of us and enslaved some of us, as we read, and a lot of us fled back into Africa. Then, under Pope Martin V, he authorized Papa Bulls for the Portuguese to start going into Africa to conquer and enslave. And under Pope Nicholas V, he issued a Papa Bull to say, not only can you go over there and slave, but I want you to go over there and investigate, search out, conquer, vanquish, and oppress the Israelites, not the black Gentiles, but the Israelites. And now the Southern Kingdom at this time under Pope Nicholas V has officially been colonized and enslaved and now being oppressed by the Portugal. But now under Pope Alexander VI, he's not just finna reach the Southern Kingdom, but now he's about to bring it to the Northern Kingdom. But keep going. Read that again. Pope Alexander VI issues a papal bull in which he authorizes who?
Or decree inter caetera in which he authorized Spain and Portugal to colonize the Americas and its native peoples as subjects. The decree asserts the rights of Spain and Portugal to colonize, convert, and enslave. It also justifies the enslavement of Africans.
Now, when we read that and it say the enslavement of Africans, we just showed y'all, brothers and sisters, that it wasn't talking about the Hamitic tribes of the Africans, but it was indeed talking about the Israelites. All right, watch this. Come on.
Out of our own soul, largest and certain knowledge, and out of the fullness of our
Apostolic power.
apostolic power, by the authority of Almighty God.
So now, when you go back to Revelations 13, Salakia, think about what it said. When you go back to Revelations 13 and 6, read that again. Revelations 13 and 6. These papal bulls was prophesied by John the Revelator. John the Revelator saw these devils coming up to power, declaring themselves to be the Pope. And what this man said, out of our own soul largest and certain knowledge, and out of the fullness of our apostolic power. What is that word apostolic? Another word for apostle, apostleship. So he's saying under our apostolic power by the authority, apostolic, by the by the authority of Almighty God conferred upon us, and bless Peter and of the vicarship of Jesus Christ, which we hold on earth. Watch this. So now read Revelations 13 and 6. So what we showing you, this is the proud speaking that these devils and this devil, Pope Alexander, issued out of his mouth. But now let's see what God said about that through the mouth of John the Revelator. Come on.
This is Revelation 13 and 6. It says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name,
to lie on his name, because he said he came of apostolic power by the authority of God, right, to do this. And he's saying he blessed, and he's basically the third under command under Peter. Come on.
And his tabernacle,
right?
And them that dwell in heaven.
Why? Because they painted everybody after their image. So now when you think about Pope Alexander VI, right? Watch this now. Watch this. It said that they also lied. Watch this. Pope Alexander VI, Jesus painting. Read this, King. Cause it just we just read. It said that what? That they also blaspheme against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. So they blaspheme against God, Christ, and the angels. Read this.
It says Caesar Borgia, Jesus, who is the image of Jesus Christ based on. When you're looking for a real life model for Jesus Christ, you'll be hard pushed to think of a less appropriate stand-in for the Prince of Peace than Caesar Borgia. One of the most notorious members of Renaissance, Italy's most notorious dynasties, the cruel Caesar was thought to be the inspiration for Niccolo
Machiavelli's Machiavelli
Machiavelli's um is that satirical
satirical.
satirical handbook for would-be tyrants, the prince.
All right, watch this. So now these are all the images at this time that they were painting of Christ. And now when you look good at some of these pictures, you can tell that they were painting over and trying to kill. When you look at this picture right here, you could tell that in this picture they tried to paint over it. Man, don't no white man got no fro like that. They
Right.
whitewashed it and tried to colonize it from the best they could. Right? Look at all these pictures. This was all done during the rebirth of the Renaissance age when they said art was a big deal under who? Pope Martin V. And Pope Alexander VI kept the tradition going. So now, hold on, let's go back. Now, let's read what you see right here. Watch this Jesus in art. So now, thanks to his father,
Who became Pope Alexander VI in 1471. Caesar was made a bishop at the age of 15 and a cardinal at the age of 18. At this point in history, the Pope directly ruled over a kingdom that dominated central Italy from its capital of Rome.
so not only was Caesar Borgia painted as Christ and Yahushua and as the God of heaven and earth and the future king of Israel, but it said he was the bishop at the age of 15. So these are the blasphemies that the Bible said was going to happen under Pope Alexander VI. So now let's go into this. So now, not only during this time, but this was also during the time that who was on the scene? Christopher Columbus. This was the time of Christopher Columbus. So now let's see what was going on when Christopher Columbus was on the scene. Now, watch this. Read this.
Con says why Christopher Columbus wasn't the hero we learned about in school.
All right, watch this.
In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. That rhyme has long been how American students were introduced to Christopher Columbus in elementary school. Students are taught that Columbus is the one who discovered the Americas, sailing across the Atlantic in his 3 ships, the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria. The Italian explorer is even celebrated every October during a federal holiday named after him.
After him. Now, hold on. Watch this. So now, watch this. Now, let's go to the part where it said he enslaved the natives.
It says he enslaved the natives. During his voyages through the Caribbean islands and the Central and South American coast, Columbus came upon indigenous people that he labeled Indians.
He's the one that labeled them Indians. And when you look at that word Indian, it means slave, right? So he named our people that he seen slaves. So when Christopher Columbus came over here and seen and found the Israelites, he called these Israelites slaves. All right, keep going.
Columbus and his men enslaved many of these native people and treated them with extreme violence and brutality. Throughout his years in the Americas, Columbus forced natives to work for the sake of profits. Later, he sent thousands of Taino Indians to Spain to be sold, and many of them died during the journey. The natives who weren't sold unto slavery were forced to look for gold in mines and work on plantations.
All right, so now what we seeing here, we seeing that not only was the southern kingdom of Israel now subject and targeted as slaves, but now the northern kingdom during the exact same time period was what? Colonized and oppressed as slaves. So now, real quick, let's get the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse number 33. You know what I'm saying? If you got some imagery, man, go on to do your thing. So let's get the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse number 33.
God, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, and verse 33.
Uh-huh.
It said, "Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together."
Who would they press together under? Under the rebirth of the Roman Empire by the permission and the papal bulls of Pope Martin V, Pope Nicholas V, Pope Alexander the Sixth. And during the age of discovery and during the time of the Spanish colonization of the world, right? When the time that the papal bulls were issued, that what the Portuguese, the conquistadors that come from Portugal and the Spanish conquistadors sent out throughout the world to do what? Find and enslave Israelites. Come on.
And all that took them captives held them fast.
Why? Because the Spaniards grabbed a hold of the Israelites and sold them into slavery. The Portuguese grabbed the Israelites and sold us into slavery. The French came along and sold us into slavery. The Dutch, the Romans, the Germans, all of these people grabbed Israelites and sold them into slavery, right? Watch this. So now go to the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and verse number 2. So now we're gonna go not only that they oppressed us and enslaved us together, but they also reclassified us during this age. During the age of the rebirth of the Roman Empire, there also was a rebirth or a reclassification of God's chosen people. But let's get there. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse number 2.
God, this is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and verse number 2. It says, And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it.
Mm-hmm.
For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak
Watch this. Come on.
and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it,
Come on.
because it will surely come. It will not tarry.
Come on.
Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith.
Come on.
Yea, also, because he transgressed by wine.
Why? He said he transgressed by wine. Who are the people that transgressed by the wine? It was the devils who came with the Roman Catholic Church. They came with that wine, right? Hold this. I'm gonna get the book of Micah. I'm gonna read the book of Micah 2:11 real quick. I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read it, King. Stay where you at. So this is the book of Micah, chapter 2, and verse 11. It says, if a man walking in the spirit and falsehood do lie, saying, I will prophesy unto thee of wine and of strong drink, he shall even be the prophet of this people. So when it says, when you go back and it says, who transgressed by wine, what is the Bible letting you know? It was these devils who came. Go back to the other picture you just had. It was these devils, right? The Roman Catholic Church with the Spanish conquistadors who came with lies. What was the lies of the Roman Catholic Church in trying to convert our people to Catholicism? Come on, keep reading.
It says, Yea, also, because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man.
He is a proud man because why? He set himself up as God amongst the congregation of Israel. He went amongst all the 12 tribes of Israel, searched and found the Israelites, and enforced Catholicism and Christianity on the Israelites. From the Inquisition of the Jews being expelled from Spain and Portugal, always into the west coast of Africa, and then bringing it to where? To the Americas with Christopher Columbus and those that sailed with him. Come on.
Neither keep it at home, who enlarged his desire as hell.
All right, so now jump down to verse number 9.
Verse 9. It says, Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high.
So the Roman Catholic Church, through slavery, through oppression, and through robbery of the Israelites, set their nest or their kingdom up on high. This is why when you go back to Revelations 13, this is what the Bible is talking about. Come on.
That he may be delivered from the power of evil.
Come on.
Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off.
Come on, keep going.
Thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people.
So he has consulted shame and judgment and destruction to his people by cutting off many people. Who were the people that they cut off during this time? It was the northern and southern people of Israel. They removed our landmarks from us in the Iberian Peninsula. They removed us from our landmarks in the west coast of Africa. And they also proceeded to come to the Americas and remove us from our landmarks. Come on.
and has sinned against thy soul.
Watch this. Verse 12.
Verse 12. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood.
And it said, destruction to this man who built this town. When you think of the Americas, America was built on the blood of the Israelites, right? All these things and much more. Let's get the book of Micah, chapter 2, verse 2 now.
Come on.
Verse 1. Start at verse 1.
Come on. This is the book of Micah, chapter 2, and verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity
Right?
and work evil upon their beds.
So what bed is the Bible referring to that it said that these so-called devils was going to devise these sins and these plots and these papa bulls out their bed? Where is your bed located? It's located in your home or in your house or on your land. So what is the bed that Micah is referring to for the Roman Catholic Church? It's saying in the bottomless pit where the dragon was going to ascend out of. This was going to be the bed in the land where they were going to devise their iniquity and their plots to overthrow, colonize, oppress, and enslave the Israelites and introduce their gods to our people. Come on.
When the morning is light, they practice it,
Right?
because it is in the power of their hand.
Come on.
And they covet fields and take them by violence,
They took America by violence. Come on.
and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage.
All right, so now even a man and his heritage. So now we finna get into the reclassifying of the Israelites. Get Psalms chapter 49 and verse number 11. So now we finna go into how when they brought us over here as slaves and then enslaved the northern kingdom of Israel, they reclassified us. Come on. Psalms
This is
49 and verse 11.
comes to Psalms chapter 49, verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever,
Uh-huh.
and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names.
And they called their land, they called the lands that they conquer after their own names. Now let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 40 and verse 19. So now we finna go into the history and the origin of these names that the Americans have been named, that they have put on our people throughout the South America, the last name that they have put on our people. So let's read that. Sirach 40 and verse 19.
Come on, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 40 and verse 19. It says, children and the building of a city continue a man's name.
So how does the so-called white man name continue to populate and spread throughout the world? By him building cities and in having children and spreading his last name and the spreading of his name amongst who? His servants, right? So now get Sirach 41, 8 and 9.
Come on, this is Sirach 41, verse 8.
Come on.
Woe be unto you, ungodly men, which have forsaken the law of the Most High God.
So this is to who? This is to our ancestors. The Lord said, woe unto us ungodly men. Come on.
Which have forsaken the law of the Most High God.
Read.
For if ye increase,
We
it shall
increased, hold on, we increased on the Iberian Peninsula. We increased throughout the west coast and central coast of Africa. We increased throughout the land of the Americas, which was once called Osiris. Watch this.
it shall be to your destruction.
Why? Because Esau came and destroyed, colonized, and conquered us off of each land where we increased as a people. Come on.
And if ye be born, ye shall be born to a curse.
So now he said, and when you are born and you give children and birth children into the world, your children will be birthed into a curse. All right, so now let's see what he's saying about that. Let's get the book of Isaiah, chapter 65 and verse number 15. Isaiah chapter 65 and verse number 15. We almost done. We almost done.
Come on, it's the book of Isaiah, chapter 65 and verse 15.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen. For the Lord God shall slay thee, and,
All right,
call,
so
his,
now, go on.
and call his servants by another name.
All right, so now the Lord says he was going to leave his name unto us for a curse. So what is the Bible saying? When our children were brought into the world, they were brought into the world by a curse. Why? Because we were renamed and reclassified. All right, so let's go into this. Can you see that? Read that for me.
Come on, let me maximize it. Okay, here we go. Come on. It says enslaved Africans were systematically renamed upon their capture and arrival in America as a primary mechanism to erase their identities, cultures, and languages.
So when you think about why the Bible said that they had similarities, when you think about this great whore, they had similarities to who? To the leopard, which was the Grecians, because the Grecians were a people who sought out to colonize, oppress, enslave, and erase the cultural identity of the Israelites, like we read about in Psalms chapter 83 on down. Come on.
This practice stripped them of their original African names and replaced them with names chosen by slaveholders, European traders, or ship captains.
So these names that they gave us stripped us from our original God-given names because they knew it wasn't no real African names. The names that they stripped from us was the surname of being the sons of Israel, the sons of Jacob, the tribes of Levi, the tribes of Joseph, the tribes of Manasseh, the tribe of Gad, the tribe of Zebulun. These surnames they took away from us because all our names, even when you look up slave records, had Yah in them, had you know what I'm saying? All our names had symbolic meaning behind them that brought us back to our God and our nationality. But keep going.
1. Types of names imposed by slaveholders.
Mm-hmm.
Enslavers drew from various sources to name newly acquired individuals, often treating them legally and socially like property. Classical names. Slaveholders heavily used Roman and Greek historical mythology or itinerary names.
Literary names.
Literary names like you. Historians note this was done either to mock the enslaved people or to show off the slaveholders' own classical education.
Watch this. Come on.
English common names.
So now they're going into English common names that they frequently recycled amongst our people. Come on.
Standard Anglo-Saxon first names were frequently recycled due to a lack of creativity among enslavers.
Watch this.
John, Jack, Tom, Mary, Sarah, Betty.
Think about it. Everybody from your neighborhood, we all know a Miss Betty. Mm-hmm. We all know a Mr. John. We all know a man named Jack. You know what I'm saying? We all know somebody named Tom, right? But now keep going. Watch this.
Biblical names. Old Testament figures were popular choices. Moses, Isaac, Jacob, Daniah, Hannah. Enslaved people often embrace these specific names later because
hold on. Think about it. So you see how they tried to do the wordplay, right? Mm-hmm. So why is it that these Africans, if we were really Hamitic people, why would we want to choose names after our freedom to symbolize the biblical names of Moses, Masha, Isaac, Jacob, Yaakov, you know what I'm saying? Dinah, Hannah, right? Keep going on there. Enslaved people, what?
Enslaved people often embraced these specific names later because they drew parallels between their own captivity and the biblical stories of freedom.
In the biblical stories of freedom. Why is that? We're going to get there later on. Watch this. Now we're going to deal with the other side. We dealt with the southern kingdom. So now let's deal with the northern kingdom. All right, watch this. So now bring this one out, King.
Come on. The history of Hispanic last names is a blend of Roman, Visigotic, Arabic, and indigenous cultures. Most modern Hispanic surnames stabilized between the 11th and 15th centuries in Spain before spreading globally.
Why? Because thousands of Taino Indians and Israelites from Ephraim and Manasseh and all the other tribes, the Dominicans, all these people were sent into Spain as slaves, right? Come on.
The four main categories. Most Hispanic surnames fall into one of four distinctive naming traditions. Patronymics, based on the father's first name. They use the suffix "ez," meaning son of. Example, Martinez, son
All
of
right, so now,
Martin.
and I'm gonna show you how wicked these devils is. So I did this for a reason. Who was the first pope that gave the green light for these Portuguese devils to start going throughout Africa and enslaving our people? Pope Martin the Fifth. So in honor of that, what did they do? Read that again.
It's an example, Martinez, son of Martin.
Martinez.
Come on, Martinez. Rodriguez,
Rodriguez, who?
son of Rodrigo.
Rodrigo Borgia. Who is that? Who is Rodrigo Borgia? Go back and do your research. Come on.
Hernandez, son of Hernando.
Right?
Occupational, based on the person's job or trade.
Right. So now, for the second time, we ain't going to get into all that. Watch this.
Historical evolution,
Come on.
Roman influence, introduced the concept of family names to the Iberian Peninsula to track citizenship and property.
So when you think about this, they did this to do what? To erase our names because they knew that even from the Iberian Peninsula to the west coast of Africa, all the way to America, our names helped them classify who we were, where we were from, and what tribes we were from. Watch this. Read the part where it says the colonization of the Americas.
The colonization of the Americas in the 1500s, Spanish colonizers imposed European naming systems on indigenous and African populations.
Meaning who? Indigenous, meaning the northern kingdom and southern kingdom of Israel. Read.
Often baptizing entire communities with the surname of the local landlord or priest.
With the landlord's name or the priest's name. So now when you think about this, these names that got brought to us as a curse were names designed to do what? Destroy us from knowing who we are. So now we got one more thing to read. Read this part where it says the absence of surnames.
The absence of surnames. Under the system of chattel slavery, enslaved people were legally denied surnames.
He said we were legally denied surnames. Why is that? Because your last name would trace where you come from. Come on.
They were recorded on bills of sale, tax ledgers, and property inventories by a first name only, occasionally accompanied by an age or physical description.
Watch this. Watch this.
Assignment.
Read the next one. Read the next point.
It says if a plantation had multiple people with the same first name, the enslaver might verbally tag them with the last name of a previous owner simply to tell them apart.
Right?
To the outside world, they were often identified only in relation to their enslaver, such as Fred Johnson's Jim.
Now we get that. We finna bring it home now because now we not only got enslaved, but we got our history took from us, our names took from us. We adopted the religion and the names of who? The people that enslaved us. So now we got closing precepts. Give me the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse number 36 and 37 one more again. Because now we bringing it back home to show you in the beginning, we read these precepts to show the proof that Moses seen and knew that these devils were going to come upon us in the end, enslave us, colonize us, and reclassify us as heathen and give us the names of their gods, of their kings, of their popes, and do what? In hopes that we might forget who we are and live the rest of our days in ruin in subjection to the so-called white man. Read that.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 36.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
And who was the king over us? The royal house of David. So the royal house of David and the 12 tribes of Israel were prophesied to be enslaved together in the last days by the Roman Catholic Church and by the 7 heads of the beast of Esau. Come on.
And there shalt thou serve other gods.
Who were the gods that we served over here? We served the white Jesus, the white Christ, the white God of high. I can't even say the white most high. That sounds crazy. You know what I'm saying? Catholicism, Christianity, Baptist, Mormon, 7-day Adventists. All these other religions of the so-called white man, the Bible said we was gonna have to serve in this land when we came over here as slaves. But keep going.
And thou shalt become an astonishment.
And we were going to become an astonishment because the world was going to be in amazement that the people who once ruled the world in the ancient world got colonized and oppressed and reclassified. The same people that came back into power during the 476 all the way up into the 1400s, who had black excellence in Europe, black excellence in the west coast of Africa, had our own land to ourselves over here in the Americas. Now we are at the bottom and subjects to the so-called white man. Come on.
A proverb and a byword.
And a byword, because why? They eliminated our surnames from us and named us after their popes, after their gods, and after their sons that they had, and after their daughters that they had. Right? Come on.
Among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
All right, so now give me the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 1 now. Because was it prophesied for this to last forever? Right? When you look at the thumbnail that we brought up, put the thumbnail back up there. Did you think that this was going to last forever? That we were just going to remain in exile and die reclassified with names given to us by the so-called white man, the devil that the Bible speaks of? Come on, read that. Deuteronomy 30 and verse 1.
Come on, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 1.
Read.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee,
Watch
and
this.
thou shalt call them to mind
And
among
we was
all.
going to call the blessings and the cursings that the Lord put upon us. We was going to call these things to mind. Read.
And thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God have driven thee.
And when is that? This is in this day and time. We are calling all these evils, the reclassification, the atrocities, the wars, and the destruction that these people brought upon us. We are calling them to mind in the lands where we are scattered as slaves. Come on.
And shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children, with all thine heart and with all thy soul.
And this is what you see going on today. Give me the book of Baruch, chapter 2. Give me the book of Baruch, chapter 2, and verse number 28. So we bringing it down. So we showing y'all the rebirth of the Roman Empire represented the downfall and the judgment of the 12 tribes of Israel and God's people being reclassified not as the Israelites, but as Americans, as the Hispanics, as all these other different names, right? As all these other different things. But hold on, it's another one I forgot to bring up, King Salaki. Hold on. Hold on, it's another one I forgot to bring up. I want to share this too. Show y'all another example. Where is it? All right, so now when you look at this, these going into the names that we inherit. I forgot to bring this. I got to bring this out because a lot of our people, the Israelites, go by these names. So I'm just gonna skim through it real quick. Right? Go ahead.
Come on, the name America. Both North and South America were named after Amerigo Vespucci.
All right,
And
stop. That's it. That's all I want. So the South and North America was named after Americo Vespucci. Come on, let's go to the next one.
come on, it says Argentina, derived from the Latin word argentinum, meaning silver.
Right. They named this land Argentina because of the silver that they, you know what I'm saying, came across. It said early Spanish explorers named the region's main river Rio de la Plata Silver River because they hoped it would lead them to mythical mountains of silver. Now, read the next one, Brazil.
Brazil, named after Paul Brazil tree. Early Portuguese traders heavily lodged this wood for its valuable red dye, which looked like glowing embers.
Right. And why did the Portuguese name this land Brazil? Because they are the ones and one of the first ones that brought slaves, our people, from the west coast of Africa to Brazil. Come on, Ecuador.
Ecuador, this is the literal Spanish word for equator. The country is named directly after the imaginary line that splits it geographically.
All right, the next one,
Venezuela means little Venice.
Little Venice.
Slovakia, little Venice. When Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci arrived at Lake Maracaibo, the
Maracaibo.
Maracaibo, the indigenous stilt houses built over the water reminded him of Venice, Italy.
All right, so Chile.
Chile, most likely derived from the indigenous Mapuche word Chile, meaning where the land ends, referencing its position at the edge of the continent. Another theory links it to the what's that? Quichua,
Word meaning cold. Chiri meaning cold.
Chiri meaning cold. It says Guana French Guana, derived from indigenous Arawakan word meaning land of many waters.
Read the next one. Paraguay.
Paraguay
Paraguay.
and
Uruguay.
Uruguay both stem from the indigenous Guarani language and are tied to river networks. Paraguay likely translates to river that gives birth to the sea, and Uruguay is commonly translated to river of the painted birds.
Rest is the next one.
Peru likely comes from Peru, the name of a local indigenous ruler encountered by Spanish explorers in the early 16th century.
All right, watch this. Suriname.
In Suriname, named after the Surinamean people, the indigenous Taino Arkwak group that lived along the local river during early European contact.
All right, so now when you think about Colombia, Colombia was named after Christopher Columbus. Bolivia, named in honor of Simon Bolivar, the famous Venezuelan military and political leader who led the War of Independence against Spain, right? But didn't go well. And now when you think about the Caribbeans, watch this. The land Cuba means great place or where fertile land is. Haiti means the land of mountains or rugged terrain. Jamaica means land of wood and water or land of springs. The Bahamas means shallow sea. The Barbados, Portuguese for the bearded ones, explorers named it after the native banyan fig trees, which have long hanging area roots that look like human beards. And the Dominica, named by Columbus because he first sighted the island on Sunday. Dies Dominica in Latin. So why did he name this Dominica? Because it's supposed to signify God's day. Christopher Columbus signified that he found this land on quote unquote God's day. So these are all the names of the places where the Israelites were scattered at during the Inquisition of the Spanish conquistadors and of the Roman Empire. So now, you know what I'm saying, when you go back to where you was at, now read Baruch. Baruch chapter 2 and verse 27. Verse 28. So now when we looking at all these things, what we just showed y'all was that what? All the lands that we dwell in today was named and named by who? Esau. And Esau named us after these lands. So now let's land at home. Come on.
This is the book of Baruch, chapter 2, and verse 28. As thou spakest by the servant Moses in the day when thou didst command him to write the law before the children of Israel, saying, if ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them.
Why? Because we was going to become Dominicans, Brazilians, Venezuelans, Americans, Cubans, Haitians, Jamaicans. We was going to become all these different things. Come on.
For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people.
Watch this.
But in the land of their captivities,
so in the lands where we was going to be dwelling at as slaves and servants, watch this.
They shall remember themselves.
Come on.
And shall know that I am the Lord their God. For I will give them an heart and ears to hear.
So now the Lord is saying in these days where he led us as slaves, he was going to give us minds to think and ears to hear the word of God and repent. Come on.
And they shall praise me in the land of their captivity and think upon my name.
How are we thinking upon his name? We thinking upon this Bible. So now last scripture, give me Isaiah chapter 44. Watch this. So this is us coming back in the last days to who we are. Let's end it off with Isaiah 44 because these people thought they destroyed us. They stripped us away of our heritage, renamed us, made it illegal for us to have surnames. But watch what God said. Watch this.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 44 and verse 1.
Come on.
Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen.
Watch this.
Thus saith the Lord that
Put that
made thee.
picture, put that thumbnail back up there. Come on.
Thus saith the Lord that made thee and formed thee from the womb, which will help thee.
Read.
Fear not, O Jacob, my servant,
What?
and thou, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen.
Why? Because we got destroyed and enslaved by the so-called Roman Catholic Church and the Roman Empire, which translated into the Americas that we dwell in today. Watch this.
For I will pour water upon him that is thirsty,
And he poured his word upon us in the last days. Watch this.
and floods upon the dry ground.
Why? Because we were that dry ground who lacked the understanding of God. We were bound to the ground through what? Slavery and being at the bottom. Come on.
I will pour my spirit upon thy seed, and my blessing upon thine offspring.
Come on.
And they shall spring up as among the grass.
And we are springing up among the nations as the Israelites. Once again. Come on.
As willows by the water courses.
Come on.
And one shall say, I am the Lord's.
I am Yahweh's. Come on.
And another shall call himself by the name of Jacob.
Another was going to call himself by the name of Jacob. He wasn't going to be calling himself John no more, or Martinez, Rodriguez, Hernando, or Lopez no more, or Johnson and Betty and Crocker. He was going to call himself by his father's name, Jacob. Come on.
And another shall subscribe with his hand unto Yahweh, and surname himself by the name of Israel.
And a lot of us was going to come back to our real surname that at one point it was illegal for us to classify and surname ourselves Israel. Read.
And thus said the Lord, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God.
And he said, besides me, there is no God. So with that, that's all we have today for y'all. The rebirth of the Roman Empire and the reclassification of God's people. But at the end of this, and at the end of this reclassification and this judgment that the Most High was going to put on us as the Israelites, God was going to have us remember who we are, and we weren't going to call ourselves by these bywords and these surnames that the so-called devil, the white man, gave us, but we was going to come back and call ourselves by the name of Israel, God's chosen people. So we prayed that it was beneficial and it was enjoyable and it was, edifying to brothers and sisters. We pray that y'all week be blessed. Y'all got anything?
I got one
Yeah.
precept, King,
Go
we can
ahead.
close it out. All right, give me get Romans 15 and 4. Because like he said, hey, us reclassifying and learning who we are, we got to search the scriptures. And, getting into this Bible and learning it, it makes you want to learn your history and knowing who you are, knowing where you thrive from. Let me get that, King. I'm going to get that in Job 8 and 8, and I'm going to cut it off.
Come on, you say Romans chapter what now?
15 and verse 4.
Come on, this is Romans chapter 15 and verse number 4.
Mm-hmm.
It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
So with everything that's written for our aforetime, this the Bible, this the scriptures, this all this history that's put out in our faces, it's written for us for our learning. Keep reading.
That we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
Mm-hmm. That we might have hope. This reclassification going on, us springing up out the earth, learning who we are, knowing we the Israelites. Hey, reading the scriptures, it makes you happy when you read that. Give me Job 8 and 8, now I'll clear it out.
Come on, this is Job 8 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
Now you got to start at verse 7 now.
Yeah, start at verse 7, King.
Yeah. Come on, verse 7. Though thy beginning was small, yet thy latter end should greatly increase.
Like you said, I was beginning was small. We was put into captivity after captivity, oppressed. We was put on cargo slave ship. We was working for another nation, the Edomites and all these other nations. Trot it down on us. Keep reading, King. Read 8.
For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
Once we start springing up out the earth, reading the Bible and getting into the scripture, we start acquiring of our fathers. We start learning who they were, what they did, and what they went through. And it only give us faith and inspire us to do better and go through these scriptures. But
I got some too. I got one precept now in it there. Give me the book of 1 Kings chapter 8 and verse 47. Okay, as we see right here in this thumbnail, this is very prophetic, man, especially with this scripture that we're going to bring out. Because the most important thing for us to get back into our royal priesthood, our rulership, we have to bethink ourselves. We have to repent in these last days. So give me that when you got it.
This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 8 and verse 46.
47. Oh, go ahead.
If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sinneth not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so that they carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy, far or near.
And that's what we been showing you. That's what's been happening in the transatlantic slave trade and all the other slave trades towards our people. Go to 47 now.
Yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whether they were carried captives,
in the land where they were carried captives, keep going,
and repent.
That's the key word, and repent. Keep going.
And make supplications unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and have done perversely, we have committed wickedness.
God, this is us confessing our faults. We're praying to the Most High for him to forgive us for everything that we have done against him. Keep going.
And so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee toward their land, which thou
Which land is that? So like it. Which land is that? Towards the east, Jerusalem, Israel. Keep going.
And pray unto thee toward their land, which thou gavest unto their fathers.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Keep going.
The city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name.
Man, like this right here is powerful. What Solomon was praying right here. He was prophesying that it was time for our people to repent and come back to his law, statutes, and commandments, so that way we would be redeemed, and that way we will know who we are as a people, man. So with that, and I yield.
You got anything else, Elijah?
I'm good, King. All praises.
Brian. So once again, hey, happy Sabbath, happy closing of the Sabbath now. We pray that brothers and sisters have a mighty rest of your week. You know what I'm saying? The brothers and sisters trying to fellowship and congregate and you in the areas of Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying? Or, you a sister looking to have Bible studies with sisters. We have everything you need. We got social medias. And if you want to reach out to do the work, fellowship with sisters, or fellowship with the brotherhood, reach out to us at the servants144@gmail.com. So, hey, we pray that all Israel be blessed and have a prosperous week and stay in the spirit, stay prayed up. And we want to say, Kwam Yashala.
Kwam Yashala.